Hi everybody, my name is Alan, and on behalf of the crew I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, anybody who's seen this show before knows that we always talk about the oneness, about an experience where there is no separation, where there is only the experience that everything is connected, that everything is one. And in that transformation where more and more human beings at this time are starting to have that experience, people are breaking boundaries. People are breaking what were considered rules for thousands of years. And those people are coming together in collaboration and in unison and in love to bring that new paradigm into people's lives. And that is an extraordinary experience when that begins to happen in people's lives. And tonight we have with us guests who, in their own way, are bringing that love and that new paradigm into their lives and into everyone's lives. We have with us Heather Ann Harder, who is running as to be the Democratic nominee as the President of the United States. Now, you know, people and women have run before for that office, but if people run where spirit and consciousness and love, is that their major proponent and the major priority in their experience of seeking that role? My guess is no. But that is what Heather Ann Harder wants to bring. She wants to bring that consciousness, that experience that she has had of that love and that connectedness into public life, into the service of all of us in that role. And it's an extraordinary thing. I mean, we could doubt, when I first met Heather, I said, you know, why would you want to take that on? And she really felt it was a service. And after spending a whole day together, I knew that experience that she had was guiding her to take that service on. But her major concern and her major goal in her life and her dedication is to that love and that oneness. So, we're just honored to have Heather Ann, with us tonight. And we also have people who play music together, who bring different, what people would consider dissident styles, or styles that don't fit together. And they fuse them into that experience of love, into that experience of oneness. And once again, what all these people, what Heather and Shanti and Annette can do is bring that love and bring that consciousness more, and just let that vibration carry us into where the boundaries break down. And when the boundaries don't exist, the only thing that exists on this plane at this time, or forever actually, is that consciousness and is that love. And that experience in a human body feels like perfection, feels like bliss. So Shanti Shivani Mafi, who's been on the show before, and we got so many calls that we wanted to have her back. She's a master musician and a Dhrupad singer, and she's playing with Annette Cantor, who again is a master musician and is a violinist and also a singer. So, their experiences and their courage in breaking the boundaries, in allowing us to share with them how they break the boundaries and how they let loose into that love, should be an extraordinary experience. And we also got a lot of calls of people who had watched the show last week about a 30-second animated promo that, 30 seconds goes by so fast. So we had decided to show it again, so we're also going to show that. So please, as I normally say at this time, whatever you've done today, whatever history you bring to this moment, let it fall away. Join us in the next hour or so, and let that experience, let that courage of our guests tonight bring you to a new level and into more courage. And that's what we're all here to do. We're all here to collaborate together to experience more love and to manifest more love. So to help us in that experience, let's just join me in a short meditation, and then we'll start the show. So please. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with that 30-second animated promo that people called in about. We showed it on the last show. It was done by friends of ours, Tom Akinpour of the Technical Animation Company, two people who are crew members here, Lou De Bourbon and Jeff Azevedo, and then an associate of ours, George Graves. So they put that together, and then we're going to go right into Shanti and Annette's first set, which are improvisations on the Gregorian chant Kyrie Ellison, which I probably pronounced wrong, performed by Shanti and Annette. So please, let's go into that. Wow, thank you, Shanti. Thank you, Annette. That was beautiful. Wow, thank you. So we're on the set with Heather Ann Harder. Welcome.
Oh, my joy to be here, Alan.
So I guess you were sitting close enough that you heard the opening. So once you had the experience of, the way I experienced it, the one, I mean, how did it come to be that of all the things that you decided, you thought that your service was to run for president?
Well, I think that all of us are always balancing the physical with the spiritual. And so for me, it was seeing a combination of all the lies coming out of Washington, recognizing that we were here for a much greater purpose, but each of us reflect that back from whatever source comes. And I was seeing a government that was reflecting back dysfunction, greed, dishonesty, all the things I didn't want anything to do with. And I thought, I can complain, I can withdraw like many people have, or I can get involved and change things. And I'm not a complainer, and I'm certainly not a withdrawer, so my only choice left was get involved and change things. So in September of 1990, I made the decision to run for president and have been putting 8 to 14 hours a day in ever since that time.
Since 1990?
Since 1990.
Now, why did you decide that you're going to go right for the president rather than work your way through the boroughs or something? I could understand that, but...
Well, I called Ron Brown, who was then the head of the Democratic Party, when I made the intention to run, thinking he's going to be thrilled. He's just like, lady.
You lost your
mind. That was sort of his voice quality was sort of that way. And he says, why don't you run for school board?
Psychiatric care will be showing up at any moment.
But you have to remember my background. When I was in second grade, when I didn't like my second grade teacher because she yelled all the time, much too abrasive for my gentle soul, I simply got up the next day, walked down the street, transferred myself to a different school. When I didn't like the child care choices for my children, I simply opened my own daycare centers. When I didn't like the school contract that I was working under, I joined the negotiating team and led the only strike my school district had ever had. I mean, I had a long history of being successful, challenging status quo. And so for me, it was only natural. If I didn't like it, I'm going to run for president. And so when I called Ron to tell him this news, congratulations, Ron, you now have Heather Harder on your team.
Now I feel good.
And so when he had this, oh, lady, go home and run for school board or city council, I thought, boy, he doesn't know Heather Harder,
Right.
and unfortunately he's not around to get to know
Right.
Heather Harder.
Right.
Well,
for anybody who doesn't know, he was killed in a plane crash in Africa or somewhere, right?
Actually, it was Serbia.
Serbia,
yes.
Right, yeah.
In that process, I had both the good advice to run for a lesser office, and I certainly had plenty of time to. But in thinking about it, in order to run for lesser office, I would have to become the liar that I didn't like in other people.
So you'd move up the liar chain.
Yes, I would have to become really good at lying
chain.
to say, make me your senator, when I really didn't want to be senator. I wanted to be president, and that was only a step along the way.
Right.
So I chose the more non-traditional path of researching and studying. For 3 years, I researched everything I could about this country and our founding and our Constitution, and because of my spiritual connections, I was also getting lots of spiritual information about this country and its founding. And then after I felt I had not only a good basis of understanding where we were coming from, but also a really good handle on what we needed to do to bring about health in this nation, then I spent 1 year going to campaign training schools.
Really?
And that is the year I learned why we're so. Oh yeah, they teach you. They teach you how to lie, how to avoid questions. They teach
how to wear a red nose. Or no.
Well, they didn't get that far, but
Didn't
how to
go
get people
there.
in fear, because when I can get you in fear, I can control you.
Right.
And so for 1 year, I really studied the process of being a candidate. And
So
after that,
you find out what not to do.
I learned the rules, not that I follow the rules. In fact,
Right.
one of the first rules they tell you is for a woman is never to appear in public in slacks, because you may offend some voters. So notice,
Right.
I violate the rules.
We
but
have
I do
no
know
voters
the rules.
on this show. Actually, our biggest audience doesn't have TV, doesn't have cable, and certainly doesn't vote. So I mean, you're fairly safe here.
Well, I hope not, because
No,
that's really what we have to do, is awaken everyone to recognize the power is only at the polls. At one campaign training, they actually taught you, don't worry about everybody, because everybody's not important. Half the people won't go to the polls, or won't even register. And then
Right.
of the people that register, half of them won't show up at the polls. And of the half that do show up to vote, a third of them are going to be Republicans. If you're Republican, you've got their vote. If you're not Republican, you can't get their vote.
Right.
They're not important. And for the same reason, a third are going to be Democrats. Not important. A third are going to be what they call swing voters. Those are the people who vote for the issue or the person,
Right.
and they really don't know who they're going to vote for till they show up at the polls themselves. And those are the undetermined, unpredictable ones that politicians are taught how to identify, how to court, how to sway. And so my message
So it's
is
never that they're all human beings,
Oh,
and
no,
that
no.
they all want love and they all.
no.
No, that's That is too weird.
Oh, and truth, oh golly, you know,
Right.
you know, you have to be this whole persona. You know, in my world, I was a university professor, and in my world, if you claim someone else's words as your own, it was plagiarism. In politics, it's normal. You never write your own words or write your own speech. It's always somebody else's words.
Right.
And so it was really a real cultural shock and awakening to the political process, which only made me more determined that we, the people, have become consumers of politics. And as you know, when you begin to look at someone's heart, you see a whole other image. And yet in politics, we stop with that plastic veneer. So part of our message is for all of us to become much more discerning, much more outraged at what they're reflecting back to us, because every time we allow government to be that dysfunctional body, we are also acknowledging and allowing that dysfunction within ourselves. And we're the generation here that are here to heal the planet, heal ourselves, heal our government, and stop the dysfunction.
So what would you, when you were going through this process, I mean, what would you identify as the biggest dysfunction?
Where do you start? We only have an hour. No.
It was, you know, the fact that there's so many. I mean, in fact, I started writing a position statement on the Constitution, and it got so carried away. It's now a book.
Right.
You know,
It's like,
they couldn't even
like the
stop.
Odyssey. You know?
Every word has been abused and mistreated. And the Constitution is a divinely inspired document that is it's a blueprint for a government that's totally in harmony with universal law. And most of the viewers of your show understand universal law. It's the highest level of law there is. It's God's law. And
it's based on love.
It's based on an honoring and a respecting and an acceptance of all variations. You know, we're a country that talks about diversity, and yet we don't even honor our own cheekbones or our own teeth or our own breasts. We're always wanting to make them over because we can't accept the diversity within ourselves. And so we really have to get in touch with that basic process so that we can begin to allow the differences within the country and then the differences within the world. But the dysfunction is so great, we have to narrow it down to at least one branch of the government or one field, and then we deal with that dysfunction.
So, and then you proceeded since 1990 on this process, and you actually were running in '96 and had reasonable success. And
I began after I had felt I had the background in every way that I could. Then I hit the road in May of '94, traveling this country. Went to 35 states, talking to everyone I could talk to, you know, meeting in everybody's kitchen and living room. And you too can have Heather Harder in your home. Just call. Just, you know, awakening people to the power they have within themselves if they just claim it. It's when all of us don't that we get into this kind of shape. And in that process, ran in '96 as a practice run. I knew I was running against a sitting president, so my chances were very slim. But I needed the experience. Found that getting on the ballot was its own experience.
Right.
Got on the ballot in about 6 states. We were on the ballot in Arizona.
Texas,
Democrats
right? Isn't Texas?
Filed a court injunction, had me taken off the ballot. They didn't want any competition for Bill Clinton. Another state was on the ballot, and they simply canceled the primary. I didn't realize the kind of power and control that was held on our election process. In the states where I wasn't taken off the ballot, Texas being one of them, we actually came in third in the Democratic primary, pulling almost 30,000 votes with about $2,000 expenditure. If you don't have the makeup people and the spin doctors and the speech writers,
well, we could
it's
get
a
Kara,
really cheap.
no, our makeup person.
Yeah, it's a real cheap campaign.
Right.
But we came in third and did well just with word-of-mouth campaigning. Everybody taking responsibility for a little bit of the process and spreading the word. New Hampshire, we came in 5th out of a field of 21.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's fantastic.
and we're going to be that much stronger this time.
And how is it going this time?
Well, you know, I'm sure you understand with your show and all the shows like you that the whole consciousness of the planet is shifting. And what was the wind in our face last time is behind our back this time.
Wow.
Even within the party structure, we're being invited in and several gatherings for the Democratic Party. I was introduced as the Democratic answer to Libby Dole, which I thought was kind of exciting. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
you have to be boring now. No.
Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Livia.
Well, see, the
I didn't mean it.
The Democrats represent the will of the people, and the people of this country are really exciting. It's that we've become mute in the political arena. That's the problem.
There's been a lot, you know, I mean, a lot of people, you know, for one reason or another, there's just so much violence and so much, you know, separation and fear, you know. So, I mean, it's really hard for people to connect. And, you know, in the political process, I mean, do we have somebody who will treat us with dignity and honesty? And you know, it's really not seen on the net, as you know. I mean, that's why you're doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But, so you also had training that was otherworldly in a sense, right? To be this role. I mean, you know that this is your destiny in a way.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people about that?
Well, I was a very head person. I was a university professor. I haven't read a fiction book since 1967 when I read Atlas Shrugged. I didn't read...
That's some last book to read. You went out on that. With me. Right, I was going to say.
My journey has always been a search for truth, and many people talk about a search for truth. And my prayers were always to know truth. I didn't want anybody else's gobbledygook. I didn't want their baloney. I wanted to know truth. Mm-hmm. Well, as my prayers for truth intensified, truth came whomping me in the head, and it didn't fit my nice, neat little academic world.
No. That
and so
whatever concept we have.
Yeah. And so in that process, I began doing what I call conscious communication with spirit, so that I was able to literally dialogue. If your viewers have seen the movie Always, where Richard Dreyfuss is a character who dies and he communicates and guides a younger pilot in through his journey. Well, if you can imagine that younger pilot becoming conscious of Richard's presence and asking questions and getting answers.
So you were the young pilot and getting answers from people who know that role, let's say.
Except what we have agreed to be as the ambassadors of spirit on the physical plane. The universal rules for this planet is you have to be in body in order to have a say-so.
Right.
That's why free will is such an important process. And each of us open ourselves up to become ambassadors for the divine force, if you will. And the more we're aware of that, and the more tuned we are to that process, the more we can do that more admirably.
And harmoniously.
Yes.
Where the wind is in our sails.
We don't whine as much.
Right. We're not kicking and screaming.
Yeah. Like, why is this always happening to me?
Right, it's smoother.
Yes. And I was doing that, and so I was able to also ask lots of questions from a spiritual perspective to what was going on in the campaign. In fact, in one of the books I'd written, I had mentioned a communication I had with Abraham Lincoln, and that ended up being a real big issue in the political campaign in '96. I had one newspaper.
It's easy to make you a kook then.
Yes.
Right.
And one newspaper they had headline, "She talks to Abe, honest," and we had.
Is she honest with Abe? You know.
And we had a Syracuse, New York newspaper that had quote of the week. She's the only candidate that has Abraham Lincoln's ghost endorsement. And the New York Times said that my biggest obstacle in the White House was the fact that I talked to dead people. So what I did then after '96 campaign was over was write a book on interdimensional communication, telling everybody how to do it, because that way I'll look more normal.
Right. And everyone will have that experience.
And it gives the topic much more credibility. And I also had then the avenue to speak about the spirituality that's already been in the White House. When I move into the White House, being openly in connection with spirit, I will be only one in a long history of people who have. George Washington, in his journals that are still in the Smithsonian Institute, have in his handwriting stories of his angelic visits that told him where to place troops and what to do with his country and the destiny of this nation.
And don't cut down the cherry tree.
No.
They left that alone.
And also the whole issue of honesty, and so on. So Abraham Lincoln had his seances, and those people who are all still very, very much heart connected with this country stand ready to guide anyone who's willing to serve this nation, not for personal agenda, but for universal good.
So you see yourself in like a long line, in a way, of I made it sound like you were the first one. There I go again.
See?
No, but, I mean, wouldn't you say, I mean, you're doing it more up front. I mean, Abe Lincoln and George Washington.
It was always up front.
It was up front.
Till we got to this Hollywood persona and afraid of what someone may say. Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and John Adams were working on the seal of this nation. They were at Thomas Jefferson's home in Monticello, which now is remote. Back then it was way out in the boondocks.
Right.
They were working on this perfect seal. They were kind of frustrated. Jefferson got up and walked to his porch, and there in the garden was a cloaked figure. The cloaked figure told him what they were working on, what it was to be, what it stood for, the whole 9 yards. He was so thrilled because he knew that was it. He went back to tell the others and forgot to thank the man, turned around, and the man has disappeared into the night. Now, they record that in history. Now, if they were concerned what people would think, they would have just omitted where the thing came from and took credit for it. We have always been upfront with our spirituality until most recently when we've been more concerned with image and what other people think. And I think to get back to truth, we have to shake that off. And
well, what caused that, do you think? What caused that, do you think?
Well, I think
that's flipped from honesty about the experience of spirituality and into,
media hype. Media hype. When the media started creating the spins, which was the first time that happened was in the Nixon-Humphrey campaign, we began to worry about the image that was created, and that was for all of us, because then media had this thing going, and we wanted to have the right breasts and the right look and the right hair and the right body and the right everything
Nixon never
else.
got it. He never had the right breasts.
No, he didn't.
No, never.
There was a lot of things. Nixon.
Yeah, Nixon was,
But, you know,
was short in a lot of areas.
But spiritually, I was told that Nixon in time will be known as one of the greatest presidents we've had, which, you know, again...
Where are we going?
Yeah, it surprised me, but
Right.
I've been given lots of things from Spirit that you think, whoa, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But it always makes you look at things a little bit differently, because we know the power from Wag the Dog that the media has to create both
the
a
illusion,
positive or negative illusion. So we'll only know history when we all begin to be in open communication with Spirit, and then we'll know truth.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, how are you being received? I mean, how is that going, like, as you travel the country with this message that, I mean, to this day is still an unusual message. I mean, people are excited when Hillary Rodham Clinton's running. And, you know, I mean, she has some open heart and stuff, but I mean, certainly Spirit isn't the forefront of her campaign that I could tell, not yet.
Neither is it mine. Again, my spirituality is simply a part of who I am. It's what brought you to have me on your show. I thank you very much for that. But that's not why I'm running. The three issues that took me out of my home and my job and my family and everything else.
Into the motorhome.
Yeah, into the motorhome. Was one, the Constitution. We have to bring back the Constitution. Two, we have to get one law, one bill, written in standard English, into effect. The way the politicians hide their pork and their favoritism and their campaign contribution paybacks are all through these convoluted laws that are 4,000 pages long, written in gobbledygook that we can't possibly read.
By filthy lawyers. No, I'm a lawyer. So.
I know.
No,
but notice how I kept
right.
quiet.
No, I know. You, for someone else, you would have said that. How would he take it? No, he's a filthy lawyer.
When
no.
70% of our people sitting in Washington are attorneys, we have way too many representation of one occupation.
Too much mouth going.
The third issue then is the national referendum. So when we don't like what they're doing, we have the ability to call that issue to the front and vote directly on the issue. We've given our politicians way too much power. The check and balance that was supposed to be there in the Constitution has been so distorted, it's not there.
It's been bought by the check. I think, you know, the check is...
that's my message.
Actually, you know what we'll do? We'll get back to those three. Let's have the second set with Shanti and Annette, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss each of those at length. So the second set with Shanti and Annette is a fusion of the Gregorian chant Salve Regina. Again, I probably got it wrong, but and a raga in Dhrupad style. And Shanti Shivani Mafi is going to do it with Annette Cantor is going to do it too. So please, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. So just settle in, and then we'll come back with Heather in a minute. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Shanti. That was beautiful. So we're back with Heather. So you've written a few books that delve into all these, different issues and things. Why don't you talk about it? One was Perfect.
The first book I wrote was Many Were Called, Few Were Chosen, the story of Mother Earth and the Earth-based volunteers. And that book was really my remembrance of how we all got to this planet, why we're here, and we are here to birth a new consciousness on the planet, to change ourselves. Gandhi would go around India teaching people that each, within their hearts, they each carried the seed of the universe. And I think that's part of what we're all awakening to now, that each of us carry a tremendous force, power, awareness, that as we move into that spiritual understanding, we then activate it at a greater physical level. And so that book talks about that process and why we're here and what we're doing. The second book, Perfect Power and Consciousness, is a book that talks about what happens as we move through that process. We'd like to think it's easy and joyful, but the truth is our physical structure has to adjust to a lot of changes as
the increase in energy and consciousness.
As our vibration accelerates, if you will, the metabolism has to shift. And in that process, there's mental changes. Everybody on the planet right now is losing their memory, and they go around trying to...
they're all losing their mind. But maybe it's just memory.
Well, losing their ability to focus the old way, all those things are part of the shifting because we're learning how to live in the now. And so instead of taking and dealing with it, we take and run for the pills and all the other contraptions to try and sharpen our mind. When in actuality, it's a great asset. It's one of the reasons so many scandals are being uncovered right now, because liars can't remember their lies, so they're getting tripped up a lot more. But nonetheless, there's a lot of changes that go on. And each book that I've written, and I've got 4 out now and 3 more coming shortly, carry another piece of what I see as the puzzle of our own healing.
And the 3 pieces that are coming, so we can give our audience.
Well, again, the book on the Constitution. We have to recognize what a tremendously powerful, sacred document that is. And when we become righteously indignant, we're not going to let our politicians muck around with it like they're doing. It's our apathy, it's our alienation, it's our cynicism to think that there's no hope for change that allows them to continue their destruction. We're being buried under a blanket of bureaucracy, and all we do is whine. We have to get up and take action. If you believe you're spiritually all-powerful, then stop whining, get active. The second book is called Breaking Free, Changing the Way We See Ourselves so we can change our world. Again, with that intention, as we begin to see ourselves from a new perspective in our totality, recognize all the family processes we've gone through that gives us many of our limiting belief systems, then we begin to let go of those.
Why don't you give a few of those? We got another 4 hours. Hit the top few.
That's exactly why I write the books, is because I go around visiting people thinking, boy, they need to hear this. So I go home and write
After
another
this show,
chapter.
you'll have an 18-volume set.
The basic part of being whole and healthy is to be real and to be totally vulnerable. That all of our conditionings in life and conditionings in our world and conditionings in media and conditionings in our family is about taking on roles, pretending, being politically correct, saying the right things, doing what other people want us to do, enabling, covering all the other kinds of things we do about power and intimacy. And in essence, we'll become healthy when we are totally in our power, which is an internal motivation, not an external action based on other people's perceptions of what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing. If I were doing what other people would want me to do, I'd still be home, being a professor and looking normal, because this challenges a lot of people. Because
and
if you
wearing a skirt.
No, it's never good that. But if you have to believe that I have the ability to be president, and if you can do that, then you know that you have the ability to be anything that you want, anything that you dare to dream. And that challenges a lot of people, so they want to put me back in my box where they can be comfortable. The other thing is to be real. The layers of pretense we put in front of ourselves are a way of keeping us cushioned against others. And it's a time where we really have to be heart open, not naive, but discerningly
conscious.
And open to being real with people, not all the what I call the fluff of life. And so that's the heart of that book, which is the heart of all relationships. And then the third book is called The Game of Politics, How to Play It, Change It, Win It, What Every American Needs to Know. And it really is all the lessons I learned in the campaign schools and all the lessons I learned on the campaign trail in '96, so that we can all become wiser consumers of politics in order to change the system. The power is in each person if you claim it.
Now, I mean, in a way what you're describing, in a sense, is the spiritual path with a certain, context around it, the political context. Now, how do people have that experience of freedom? What tools would you suggest people who would like to have the experience of more freedom and break and have the courage and blah, blah, blah?
Well, as we know, behind the action is the thought, or the word behind the word is a thought, behind the thought is the intention. It all starts with an intention. As soon as you intend to be a force for healing in this country, a healing of our government, as soon as you intend to find your own truth, then the universe starts rearranging itself to bring that to you. And so the first is people have to make the intention that they can make a difference, they want to make a difference, they want a healthy world to pass on to their children and their grandchildren. Then certainly get involved with our campaign. We're on the web. People can look us up very easy, www.harder2000.com. They can begin to take action. Action is what kills the apathy. Involvement does away...
Creativity. I mean, love manifests as creativity, and then you have an experience. I mean, you're in a physical body, so you're going to do it anyhow. And
everything coming from a creative source is pulling from that soul energy. And once you awaken that soul into your life, it doesn't get put away easily. And that's the transforming ingredient in all of our lives. And it's the spirit of this nation that we have allowed to become very sick and very controlled and very manipulated. And when people call forth the spirit of this nation in their prayers and their meditation, when they call forth the awareness and the intention of the Founding Fathers, boy, it's there big time. In fact, I had one fellow recently who was a little concerned about my spirituality. He was a rather respectable man and was concerned about my talking to dead people. And so he called me not too long ago that Abraham Lincoln appeared to him and said,
wow.
"You call Heather Harder."
Really? Call Heather Harder? Holy Christ.
We've had people manifest books on their bed. One attorney, kind of a crusty fellow, came to a meeting and said, I don't believe in this stuff, but I didn't intend to be here. But this morning I woke up with your book on my bed, and I didn't buy it, and I don't think I stole it. And
really?
I live alone, so when your book was there, I'm coming to hear you.
Oh my God!
So this campaign really is a very spirit-driven process.
Now, do you get royalties? That's the question.
No, I'm sure I do.
Not on that level. You get a lot of royalties from it. Inner royalty.
But it's that kind of process. People have to start the intention. Now, if they want information how they can help the Heather Harder campaign, we have, they can contact you. Right. They can look us up on the web.
At the end, I'll tell people how to get.
We've all kinds of materials put together this time for what people can do. In '96, when people ask me, "What can I do to help you?" I say, "Pray, follow your guidance," because I was over my head.
Right.
Now we've put together some booklets that tell people how to facilitate a campaign. We've got boxes that say it's a campaign in a box, and we've got videos that talk about my politics and spirituality,
and all the issues and all the things we've talked about.
So, and it's all based in that process. But most importantly, arm themselves with truth. Read the Constitution. When you read the Constitution and see that little teeny document that clearly states that we have the power, they're in our inalienable rights, and the government can only do the things that we allow it to do, and 17 very limited and defined roles. And then we look at what they've done with this convoluted process that right now, if you chose to spend every day of your life spending 8 hours a day, assuming you could read the laws that are written to cover your life, and you live to be a very, very, very old man, you couldn't possibly read the laws that govern you. That's ridiculous.
If I ever decide to do that, call out the hit squad, please. Finish me. I must have gone very bad.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. That's the amazing part, and that's the part we've got to stop. And I call my information radical common sense.
And you find that just because that is really taking hold, and as you travel around, people who you wouldn't expect to really be, if you have any expectations at all, are just coming aboard
Oh,
and wanting to participate and wanting to change his crap once and for all.
They stumble on the web page. They hear me on the radio. I do a lot of radio. They see a show. Somebody shares a video. Someone passes out a sheet of paper. Someone wears a button. All the ways that Spirit has of sort of helping people awaken is drawing them in, and we're getting tremendous numbers. And hopefully with the show, people will also say, hey, that's a lady I want to hear more about, and check me out. But mostly stay in their place of discernment and ask no truth, because once you begin to seek out truth, you won't be fooled. The Bible talks about this time, what I call the end times. It's not the end of creation, it's the end of time-space continuum, which is a limiting factor. But they talk about during these end times that there'll be many false prophets, and even God's most elite will be fooled. Well, you figure if God's most elite will be fooled, all of us will be a little bit fooled, and they won't be fooled by obvious con men. It'll be people who really believe what they're saying. So it really discerns all of us, serves us well to stay in that place of discernment and call forth truth in everything we read, everything we listen to, everything we watch.
Does it resonate, truth? Does
yes.
it feel right?
And resonation of the truth is in the body, not in the mind. The mind can be fooled.
Right. The mind's got ideas.
But you feel that soul energy.
God help us with those.
Well, you know, again, when we get in harmony with body, mind, and spirit, then the mind becomes a great ally.
Well, it's who's in control.
Well, it's when we're out of balance with it
that
it gets out of. So our job is to bring balance in government, bring balance within ourselves, and when we get healthy, we won't tolerate a dysfunctional government. So again, the government is giving us a great opportunity to see the dysfunction there, to go, I don't want a part of that anymore, as we heal ourselves.
Usually we can just see it in our family. We don't have to go even further than that. So, I mean, I remember I asked you this the first time we met, and, you know, maybe our viewers would like to hear your explanation of it. I mean, I know you know that there's an experience of one, and you know, the boundaries of countries are idiotic on some, you know, on some very simple level. I mean, you know, but you talk about the United States and our country. Now, to some extent, I don't identify. I mean, I know I'm an American. I know, you know, we're in Santa Barbara. So, do you see that as a limiting factor, or that's like a step for you to, you know, expand into the, you know, all the countries and the whole world, instead of America and Britain, you know, all the separations that we recognize now?
Well, we're moving through the stages. We have been a very third-dimensionally defined planet. We've been a third-dimensionally defined world, which means that everything is defined by its boundaries, by its taste, touch, sense, physical imprint. And then we're moving from that into what's fourth dimension, and I describe those in both of the, many were called, and perfect power. Fourth dimension is defined as that search mode. You know, we know there's something beyond those five senses. We don't know quite what it is, but we want to look for it. And so in that search mode, we look for that something. In fifth dimension, we begin to find it, and it's sort of like a zigzag. We find it in some places, and we still have to pay the mortgage, and we get pulled back to third dimensional reality, and we sort of wobble back and forth. In fifth dimension, we begin to recognize the oneness, that we're all in a game, we're all playing in a drama, that we're just different aspects of the same totality.
There can only be one.
And that's tied with love. And love is not the mushy-gushy, huggy-kissy, it's the respecting and honoring and recognizing that we each have a distinct opportunity to grow in our own distinct way, and that as soon as when I honor your path, then you honor mine, we both grow from that experience. And what I do to you affects me, and what I do to the tree affects me.
Absolutely. Because yeah, exactly. There's no separation. And if we understood that, the way we would treat each other in the oceans, the mountain, you know, and other countries, other races, what we consider other countries, would just be completely different.
But in that process, we recognize that what I do with me, how I carry myself, my dignity, my honesty, my integrity, affects all things. So we again take that attention back to ourselves. I don't try to dictate your path, even though I might have a great idea for how you should live your life. We all do.
You can get in line behind my parents and about 1,000 other people.
I think we've got this earth thing all wrong. We should each be assigned someone else's life to run. But in the process...
What would we do with our parents? That would be... They have to have some say.
In my book, Many Were Called, in the beginning of the book, I say that I thank my parents who taught me to stand tall in the face of adversity. What I didn't say is they weren't ordained.
The adversity. Right,
no, please, Heather, don't open your mouth.
Are they still alive?
No. When I told my mother...
I can't... My parents see this show, so I have to be a little more careful.
In 1990, when I told my mother I was going to run for president, she goes, "Oh, my goodness, you and Dan Quayle from Indiana. I hope I'm dead first."
So and he's running again.
She died in 93.
Right, she never once... Can you imagine you running against Dan Quayle?
But in that same awareness of living our own self in dignity as we take that to a national level, this nation has to be in dignity and in truth and in integrity and in grace, and then we can model it for all others. But it's that ripple. We can't go out and save the world and pretend that we have the power to do that if we ourselves are drowning in violence, drowning in muck and mire and greed and all the other things that affect Washington.
But when you say we, you say people of the United States.
That's who I want to vote for.
That's who you're aiming at this level of things. You don't want the Italians to vote for you. Not the Italians in America, we know that.
One columnist said that don't laugh at her because she talks to dead people. The dead are a very large voting bloc in my area.
That's right. And they're still walking around, actually. Yeah, in Chicago, they're probably running a few in the precincts. So.
Just as I have to heal myself in order to heal my family structure, and that's my children that I've lovingly grown up dysfunctional, then I also have to take and heal myself to help heal the government. And as I heal this government, we become that beacon, that model for truth and justice across this planet. But we first have to do it with ourselves. And that's why I differentiate between this country and the world. We are the policeman, the big brother of the world, and yet our streets are the most violent, our government is among the most dysfunctional, and that's what we have to take responsibility for.
It's starting to change, and you're, a big part of it, and we all are. I mean,
we all are.
We all are, and we all are feeling that call. So, I guess it's time again for us to go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shanti. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Heather. If you need any information, call me, 805-687-2053, 805-687-2053. Good night. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Come next time. Good night.